Good morning, Wahconah. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd. It is the sixth day of school and it's day 2 on our schedule. That means you will be meeting your B, D, and F block classes for Zoom sessions this morning, and you should be working on your asynchronous work for your A, C, E, and G block classes, which you will meet again tomorrow. Okay, just a couple of reminders. We have no new announcements today. We do want to remind everybody, especially seniors, to check out the FAFSA information that we sent to you via email the other night. FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It is an important bit of information to help kickstart your college search process, especially when it comes to figuring out costs and what you can afford as you're beginning and continuing your college search. So it's very important that seniors pay attention to anything that has to do with the acronym FAFSA. The other thing we want to do is remind the juniors and seniors whose GPAs make them eligible for National Honor Society. You have an email waiting for you from Mr. Dahari and Ms. Shannon, our NHS advisors. Those are for prospective members in the junior and senior class whose GPA is high enough to get them into NHS. There is an application process and procedure, and they need you to fill out a form and resubmit it to them by this Friday. That's really it for announcements. What I do want to do is take a moment and talk a little bit about the room that I'm in. So I'm going to turn my camera around, and then we'll do a little bit of explaining in a preparation for a hybrid return to school. So the room that I'm in right now is room B12, and this is Mrs. Walsh's room. Mrs. Walsh teaches biology for us, including AP biology, and you will notice that it is almost entirely empty. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, this classroom, along with the same exact classroom on the other side of the science lab, Mr. Dahari's room, both rooms will not be able to be used for classes this year. The most number of desks that we could fit in here was about 6 desks, 6 feet socially distanced apart from front to back. But the biggest problem with this room, and the one that Mr. Dahari used to teach in, is the fact that there's no windows. We are not going to be putting cohorts of students into relatively small spaces without some sort of ventilation like windows. Our classrooms in the rest of the building are bigger than this for the most part, and not only do they have window access, but they also will all be equipped once we get into the colder months with air purifiers, which are actually on their way to Wahconah in due time. This particular room isn't going to be used for a whole heck of a lot. As a matter of fact, all summer long it was storage, and we just got some of that furniture out of here. But for the most part, this is going to be used possibly to do a small breakout group if we have to off of the lab. We might be able to do some one-on-one or small group instruction here, but for the most part, this room is going to remain as is. Mrs. Walsh is currently teaching from this room in her remote setting, but once we return to hybrid, this will not be a classroom at all. And the same is true for Mr. Dahari's room, B14. We moved Mr. Dahari across the hall. He will be taking over Mr. Therian's space for the most part. The other thing we want to reiterate to you is the fact, and I said this in yesterday's video and I want to reiterate it today, is that just because on your schedule it says that you're going to have, say, Mr. Dahari in room E12 for physics, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to end up in that room. And once again, that has to do with cohort sizes. That room that Mr. Dahari's in holds about 12 students. If he has a cohort of 14, we're going to need to move that cohort to a different classroom for that particular cohort and that particular block. That's just an example, for instance. That is going to be common here. So the room number that shows up on your schedule, that may be the room that you have class in, it may not be. We are going to have a whole schedule and transition list for students and staff to follow, so you know exactly where to be at all times, and especially at the start of the school, we'll be on the PA system reminding folks and so on and so forth. But today, I'm in a room that will not be used, sadly, and it's unfortunate because it's a great little room, but the big reason, no windows. So with that concludes today's announcements, and tomorrow I will be coming to you from the art room. See you soon.